opposition political platforms in Nigeria have always focused on voter mobilization, which is an important aspect of an election. Flying akara on the streets, putting DJs, and using drones to show them my crowd is bigger than your crowd. Voter mobilization, an important aspect of the election. So you're not running for election in Israel. You're not running for election in UK or in USA. Right? You are running for elections in Nigeria, where the systems have been repeatedly shown to be able to, that people have the capacity to compromise them. That means you have to invest.
Have you put in place mechanisms to check and stop this?
So this is what I was saying before, and even till now, you can't go to the field and be dancing with market women, but you don't have mechanisms in place to protect the votes of the market woman.
That's wasting the...
You are wasting their emotions. You are wasting their investments. People came out, invested their energy. I know people who are still in depression as a result of the elections because you told them that you've won already, whereas you didn't do anything to protect their votes. And you are telling them to protect votes with bare hands. With bare hands.
So you shouldn't be a responsibility passed on to the electorate.
You have some form of responsibility that the electorate has to pass on. But some of the technical issues we are discussing now, the electorate cannot do much about it. So that's at that level you have to, each unit must supply. There is the parts electorates must play, but then as the leader, you set the template.
And this is the time for the opposition parties to begin to put these processes in place. Good time enough before 2027, but you won't see much action.
What I've
They don't even do an audit of the last election. What happened? What went wrong? How do we stop this? They rarely do it. Rather, you only say activities 1 or 2 years before election, when it's time to sell nomination forms and expression of interest forms.
Some of them have even started softly campaigning for 2027. I'll give you instances. People are now going around distributing checks of 20 million, 50 million to schools, health colleges, and then at the end of the day, they make sure that cameras are there to capture it. They are just keeping themselves in the news. And periodically, you will see them granting press interviews, doing press-related activities to keep their names in the news. And that's one of the things you need to do. You have to do it. But then, don't walk into an election that you're not part of setting the templates. You have failed already. If you did not invest your time in setting the templates, don't believe that miracle will happen, magic will happen, and that people who...
Those that perpetrated manipulation will be more brazen next time.
We know who, for instance, are the likely players of 2027 are going to be, and they have a history. And one of the things that I did before 2023 that informed is that I look at, for instance, Tinubu, for instance, what is his history? And what is his age? Everything happening around him shows that this is going to be a very important shot for him. Because if he doesn't get it, wow. And so you will see that in that instance, he has already had a history that we all know. Thankfully, he's been a governor for 8 years. We all know him. Not expecting him to do what he did in 2023 was outright naivety. Outright naivety on the part of many opposition figures.
He was ready?
He was ready.
For 2022.
And people knew that he was ready. And then you are jumping around, jumping from stadium to stadium, snapping pictures with babies. And so when you blame people or systems that were compromised, you also factor in some blame for people who left our back door open for the goats to come and eat our yam. And that's why I encourage politicians and political platforms and opposition platforms and civil society groups to begin now to invest enough energy. People are discussing electoral reforms now. What is Labour Party contribution to the electoral reform? The candidates...
What are they doing on their own and in unison? Are they engaging the international community on all those?
So you said it right here that you want to invest in the process, right? So the political parties that are serious should have at least asked themselves, how did this water enter the dam? How did this thing happen? And when you have done all the risk analysis and you totally understand what the issues were in 2023, you now begin to put remedial measures or measures in place, not to allow it to repeat. But what happens is that we go to bed, the same thing will happen to us in 2027, and we come back and repeat the same line of crying on TV. I don't like lamentation.
To court and all that. And political parties are supposed to be political machines, as it were. Well organized, closely knit, efficient, but we don't see it here.
I'll tell you the truth. If you've done any long or detailed analysis of these things, you will see that Nigeria is the way it is because the politicians, let me use politicians, those who want to compromise Nigeria work harder than those who want to make Nigeria good. You will see people, you will see the kind of energy you need to exert to compromise the system. You also see the level of energy you need to exert to prevent people from compromising the system. And you see the people who want to compromise the system exert more influence. Apart from 2014, between 2014 and 2015, Nigeria has never had any opposition at the federal level. Between 1999 and 2013, people were issuing press statements, but there was no credible opposition. Apart from what they somehow did in Ojota in 2012, occupying Nigeria, there was no credible opposition. And when PDP, the roles reversed, PDP was nowhere near anything that looks like an opposition party between 2015 and 2023. What the PDP was doing is issuing occasional press statements, granting occasional press interviews, and perhaps tweeting. Today, Labour Party has fallen into that lethargic, lazy opposition of tweeting, press statements, and granting media interviews. How do you think you can grant media interviews and the INEC will be better? How do you think you can grant media interviews and the systems will be cleaned up? How do you think that you can only just do one tweet and all of a sudden the vulnerabilities of the systems will clean up? Who do you expect to do this work if you don't want to do it? And I ask you, people say that he who is pressed should lead the charge. Between the person who is the incumbent and the person who is at the opposition, who should lead the electoral reform? Is it the incumbent or the opposition? Is it not the opposition that should lead the electoral reform?
It will be suicidal for the opposition if is led by the incumbent.
Because the incumbent...
Or the incumbent party in power.
They will
and that is what we are seeing now.
They will present something that looks like electoral reform, but they will deliberately put landmines there so that when it detonates, everybody is surprised. And that was what they did. And so today, I'm asking opposition platforms to take the charge, to become opposition. This lazy media interview, tweeting, and press statements cannot get Nigeria out of the woods. If Nigeria is going to get out of the woods, the opposition platforms and opposition political figures must be able to roll their sleeve and put in all that is needed